So, the mainstream media, a lot of left wing politicians have spread a lot of misinformation and fake news around. There was this nonprofit organization by Michael Bloomberg that is releasing these faulty statistics that are saying that this is the 18th school shooting that has happened in America this year, and people like Bernie Sanders, Jeff Greenfield, de Blasio, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, Time, the BBC, the New York Daily, HuffPo have all retweeted this misinformation, obviously to push for their more restrictions on gun narrative. And this is how the left, changes public opinion. They release dubious statistics like this to get people to slowly change their opinions. Then they slowly introduce common sense regulation, and then they take it away little by little. And it's like all these people retweeted this shit, and it was probably viewed by millions of people. And how many of them are going to make a retraction and come out and say that they were retweeting fake news? Like, the number one search on Google when you searched 18 was, the 18 school shootings this year. So even Google was pushing it, like Twitter was pushing it on the trending thing. So these people know that they're pushing fake news, but the only fake news that they're worried about is fake news from the right. And other than this, they're just going to push this fucking fake information. And like the guys, the company from Michael Bloomberg, the way they get their statistics is like anytime a gun goes off in a school, they consider that a mass shooting. So there was examples of people like a gun went off, it didn't injure anybody, that's a mass shooting. Like there was like a BB gun brought to school, that's a mass shooting. Somebody was killed like off the property of the school, that's another mass shooting. Like, this is how people manipulate us with statistics, and they do this on both sides. This is why you always got to be skeptical about the things that you are presented, because they can always just leave out information, or the way they ask the question is slanted or whatever. So this is how they push the narrative, and all this misinformation is just going to be used to convince people that gun regulation is the key, and is the right path to solving these issues. When there was all this information coming out from parents as well, they were asking them like, what is your, are you fearful that your kid is going to suffer from one of these school shootings? And a high percentage of them were saying yes. Whereas if you look at that thing statistically, you'll see that fear is misrepresented, right? You're not that likely to be shot in a school than the leftists in the media is trying to portray, right? And there was this guy who came out, I forget, he's some on CNN or something. I think he worked for the NSA or the FBI at one point. He was an old director, and he just started breaking out and crying, like, "Oh, we gotta do something about this," and oh, just crying like a little bitch. And those were all crocodile tears. Nobody fucking believes you. This is just like Jimmy Kimmel when he's trotting out his little kid, crying and shit, and saying we need to reinstate healthcare. And it's like, people are starting to see through this. They are starting to see through this, and you have a lot of people telling you, no, that's not the case. It's getting worse and this and that. But if that was true, Trump wouldn't have been elected. So that right there is a sign for a lot of the naysayers. Like, I'm talking about people like in the alt-right who are kind of like just doom and gloom. Oh, you become an ethno-nationalist because we're fucked. It's like, man, Trump is in office. He's not going to be pushing for like massive gun regulation shit like this. So this is a sign. Him being elected is a sign that people are waking up to a lot of this bullshit. And the more and this is also why the media is trying to censor the internet, social media, because it is having an impact on people, right? Like waking people up. Like I'm arguing with some people in my comments saying like, oh, pointing out this hypocrisy from the media and pointing this out will do nothing. And I'm like, no, I completely disagree. You know, it wasn't until I started watching people who did point out the inconsistencies within the media that I started being woken up to that fact, and I started changing my political views, right? So all the people saying that pointing it out is useless are probably controlled opposition. They're trying to get you to do nothing and to let the leftists do whatever they want. This is like, I'm bringing it back to the alt-right, but I've just been arguing with a lot of them in my comments, and I'm more and more convinced they're controlled opposition, because it seems to me like the moment that you become a white nationalist and that's all you want to do, it's like you immediately now just forget about SJWs, you just feed into their narrative, you no longer fight them, because now your job is just to shit post online, say a bunch of fucking dumb shit, and call for an ethno state, right? So that's all they want you to do. This is why I'm convinced that they're just the pawns of SJWs. They're just used to further the left's narrative, right? And a lot of them have legitimate gripes and all this shit, and it's like, yes, we all see what is going on, but you know, the solution isn't to be pushed to ethno-nationalism and shit. So I don't know, like, all this fake news on both sides is really fucking getting to me. And I seen this other guy, the Zionist Zero, I'll link it in the description, but he was pushing around fake news saying that David Sharat and Destiny were the killers, and this got a bunch of likes, a bunch of retweets. And yes, this is not as, well, like, it is pretty bad, but I'm saying it's not the same scale as what the media is doing. But that's not fucking good either, man. Like, you really want these... I disagree with David Sharat. I disagree with Destiny. I think they're fucking assholes. But... and they're despicable people to some extent. But, like, come on. They don't deserve to be labeled as the fucking murderers. And then there's other people posting that picture with the guy with the communist shirt. It's like, man, that guy didn't even look anything like the kid, right? It's like, and the shirt was like making fun of communism. So it's like, man, this fake news on both sides is not fucking helping anything, right? And the fake news that, and the misinformation that the right pushes out, or the alt-right, is just being used to further the left's narrative, because then they can use that, point to that, say, hey, look at all the fake shit they're inventing, look at all this, look at all that. And you actually have people in the alt-right and stuff like asking people to do this, like telling people to lie, telling people to make shit up, right? So this is why, like I said, I'm convinced they're controlled opposition, because once they become that, everything they do is just seems to help the left, right? Almost everything they do. So I don't know, that's all I pretty much had to say on the topic, and there's another good reason to be skeptical of pretty much the majority of the news that you get from the mainstream media, because they all ran with this, right? Pretty much the majority of them ran with this. And once again, you know, statistics, always be skeptical of statistics, whether they are coming from somebody you like or dislike. You know, you really have to look at the methodology and how they acquired these numbers, because there's always shit they're leaving out. But that's all I pretty much had to say. If you like my content, subscribe and have a good day. See ya.